President Biden vowing to take it up a notch in his final battle against Donald Trump. His new strategy, go for Trump's jugular, as if they haven't been already trying to do that. They want to goad the former president into going, quote, haywire in public. So what does going for the jugular look like? Repeatedly calling Trump a loser. Biden telling the New Yorker, quote, losers who are losers are never graceful. But if anyone is losing, apparently it's President Biden. He's trailing in a spate of new polls and is quick to dismiss them.
My poll numbers, the last 5 polls you guys don't report, I'm winning. 5 in a row. You guys only look at the New York Times. They're a great paper.
8 out of the last 11.
The president is brushing off the polls, but they show him losing on the big issues. For example, 71% say Biden has mostly failed on border security, and that is the #1 issue now. And 61% say the same for the economy. Former President Trump is also going for the jugular. Watch here.
Biden is the worst president in history. There's never been a worse president. Our borders are an embarrassment all over the world. We have millions and millions of people coming in from jails, from mental institutions. Nobody's ever seen it. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. I believe that November 5th is the most important day, perhaps, in our country's history. Because November 5th, we're going to hopefully get Biden out.
Jesse, in order to go for the jugular, you can't have, like, staff do it. Right. You can't have them say, wow, the president is such a whirlwind behind the scenes, and the president is so. The president himself, Biden, would have to land the punch. Can Biden actually land a punch?
Call him maybe a dog-faced pony soldier?
Something like that.
Dana, if this turns into a name-calling competition, Fox wins, but the country loses. This country does not want to see these two men get in the gutter. This country's already rolling their eyes that they don't want to have to even choose between these two candidates. And if this just becomes a bunch of mudslinging, they're just going to say, oh, my God, they might even vote for RFK just as a protest vote. But it might lower turnout, which in that case helps Trump because his voters are so passionate. Biden may try to ignite the Trump hate wing of the party, which is enormous. But then he turns off independents, and he's always getting shellacked by independents. So I'm not really sure this works. If Trump does get attacked personally, I would recommend the counterpunch combination.
Okay.
You can't just go back and forth like that. You have to insult back, then hit him on policy, and then say what your policy is going to be. Because Biden's trying to lure him away from policy. Trump has to stay on policy. But what the trouble is, if Biden gets into a meme war, he's toast.
Yeah.
Do you ever see these things when he mixed up the president of Mexico and the leader of Gaza, and Trump put the map on the screen, Mexico run under Israel? That stuff sizzles. That's the stuff in the group chat you send your friends and family and everyone laughs at. That'll get traction. Biden has no shot there.
So it's jab, cross, jab.
Sure.
That's the way to do that. What do you think about the Biden thinking that he can get under Trump's skin? That's what apparently told the New Yorker.
Yeah, kind of interesting, I thought, some of the commentary there that he offered. Maybe Trump can get under his skin, too. And I was thinking about the issues, if that's what you want to talk about here. And our polling that came out on Sunday morning, Biden's approval rating was 42%. At this same time, for George Bush, 43. He was at 53% and won re-election. Obama was at 45, he won re-election. Trump was at 45 and he lost. So Biden's at 42%. On the issues now, think about, right, you've got 8 months, right, from today? Economy/inflation, immigration, Ukraine, Middle East. What am I missing? Those are the 4 major. How many of those issues can you make better in the next 8 months? And that will go a long way to determining whether or not Joe Biden can beat Donald Trump.
It's interesting that Biden wants to play on Trump's turf. Like, why not find your own turf and like make a difference? Because if you're fighting mano a mano with Trump in a war of words, you're likely going to lose.
I mean, think about it. I mean, this is a strategy of a president of the United States. I'm going to get under Donald Trump's skin, and he's going to be totally unnerved by me. When the truth is, we already know, based on the lying pony-faced soldier, whatever that was, and with his fighting with another voter saying, you know, you're a liar and let's do push-ups, and then we hear about him blowing up and exploding at people on his staff. You know, Biden is the one with the temper. And the idea that Joe Biden is going to rattle Donald Trump is really hysterical. Here you've got a guy who's been indicted 4 times with 90 counts. You've got a crazy judge and an attorney general who's basically taken almost $500 million away from him. You've got most people, you know, he's being sued civilly. Most people will be hiding under their desk or in a straitjacket. Donald Trump's back there fighting harder than ever. He's out front, and Joe Biden thinks he's going to get under Donald Trump's skin, and that's his strategy. It's never going to happen. And, you know, to be honest with you, the best thing that can happen is what you said, Dana. If they got to go mano a mano on the issues. And Joe Biden, you know, they keep telling us behind closed doors he's a great walker, a great talker, and he can ride a bicycle and all that other stuff. But let's see him do a little or some of this stuff in public, and he might have a chance.
What do you think about Biden's strategy? Like, I mean, ultimately, it does come from the top. The staff can recommend a lot of things, but if Biden's instincts are, this is how I'm going to beat President Trump, then I guess we're going to see that?
Yeah, I think we are going to see it, and I think that was really the crux of the big New Yorker piece, right? It was him taking control of his candidacy and saying, we have 8 months left to go now. I'm being criticized right, left, and center for not being prominent enough. Well, here you go. Here are thousands of words in my own voice. And the thing that radiated the loudest was, I've beaten him before, and I'm going to beat him again. And that's what Democrats want to hear. Whether you like him or you don't, or you think a younger candidate would be better, you want to win. But Republicans and supporters of Donald Trump have been saying since 2016 and 2017, certainly, when he won the presidency and moved to the White House, if he would just talk about policy, he'd be great. But the man can't do it for more than a few minutes. His conciliatory tone has a 60-second expiration date on it. And we talked about this when he's gracious, and then it goes away, and suddenly migrants are poisoning the country. And you say, if it's a meme war, you're going to lose. Well, why is Joe Biden flush with cash more than even Obama was at this point? The RNC has no money. It's in the toilet. And Donald Trump is spending his money
because
on
you're
the
arresting him.
He's like,
You're arresting him, Jessica. What is he supposed to not pay lawyers?
he shouldn't pay lawyers with his supporters' money, which is what he's doing.
Okay, Jessica, you've arrested him 5 times. What's he supposed to do?
I have not had the pleasure, by the way, of personally arresting him, and that's not how it works. He's getting indicted by juries of his peers.
No, he's getting indicted because Democrat prosecutors are prosecuting.
Okay, and it's coming from the White House.
Don't commit crimes in liberal places if you don't want to see liberals. On the polling front.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, don't go to liberal places. You'll be a victim of a crime.
That's also not true. But on the polling front, and this is a point of frustration, obviously, for the president, there are 4 polls in the last 2 days that have Biden either up or tied, and they get very little coverage. Morning Consult, TIPP, YouGov, the AP poll. And I get it. I love, certainly, our own poll. I was fascinated by the New York Times Siena poll. If something like that happens, it would upend electoral history of decades and decades and decades. But there is good news in there for Joe Biden, and he really doesn't feel like his campaign is getting it out there, and so he's got to take over.
There will be 7 states in the end that matter, and you'll see that on the board tonight. As a matter of fact, Jesse, one last thing.
Do you have a picture of the board?
I do not at the moment, no. I thought the most truthful thing in the entire piece was the writer said, I asked Biden if there ever were a time where he doubted he would run again.
Siena said no.
No, he said. And Dana, you and I have talked about this for months. Only once in our lifetimes, right, has a one-term president decided to leave the office at the end of his first term. Biden's not going to do it regardless of age. He is in it to try and win it.
Well, it's also, that's what I think also is very frustrating to so many of the Democrats. I think 46% in the New York Times poll, Democrats say they didn't want him to run in the primary or run again because he said in 2020 that he would be a transformational president. And if he runs and loses to Trump, what are the history books?
I thought you said Michelle Obama was going to run.
That's not happening.
Jesse and I are going to.
She didn't. She said she wasn't going to run. She didn't say she wouldn't be
It's
drafted.
not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right,
You don't think
Karina?
so?
So when I saw that, I
Ain't
said,
gonna
"Hard
happen.
I don't think Joe Biden's
Waters.
going to be
Not
on
gonna
the,
happen.
Yeah,
on the
you guys
ballot.
just keep telling your friends that Michelle Obama's running. It's really fun to knock it down every day.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.